In today's episode of Know Your History, we will be talking about the life and times of Major General Johnson Thomas Omunekwe Aguiyi-Ironsi. Major General Johnson Thomas Omunekwe Aguiyi-Ironsi was the first military head of state of Nigeria. He assumed power after the 1966 coup d'etat. Ironsi ruled from the 16th of January until his assassination on the 29th of July 1966. During January 1966, Ironsi was purportedly slated for assassination, but effectively took control of Lagos, the federal capital territory. During the night of the coup, putschist soldiers attempted to apprehend Aguiyi-Ironsi at his residence, but he was away at a party at the time of their arrival, and his guards turned the putschists away. Upon returning home, Aguiyi-Ironsi received...
Okay, this was surprising and shocking because we've seen the British Prime Minister wife finally talking about Aguiyi-Ironsi in a meeting, and at the same time she was telling the British Parliament to talk about Nnamdi Kanu's freedom, and at the same time talk about Biafra freedom. A lot of people are saying, what correlation does she have with the Biafrans? Was this not shocking to you?
Yes, a lot of people that know the development knows today that the new British Prime Minister paid a courtesy visit to the Jewish community in Britain today, and that is where it was reported that the wife, Maria France Vahil, actually, made that statement trying to connect the Israeli history to what is happening in Nigeria. And of course, he went as far as also trying to make it very clearly that it is becoming very clear about the history of Nigeria, where he actually mentioned, Johnson Aguiyi-Ironsi that was brutally murdered in July 29, 1966. And he went further to say that it was actually the British government that crowned him, that made him, even before independence, he was the top general in Africa. As at that time, one of the people people talked about. I think the first military head of state, and of course the first Igbo general in the military. And it was not, he did not get that feed from Nigeria. It's because of his military exploits and strategy outside the shores of Nigeria that the British monarch, His Royal Majesty, the Queen Elizabeth, decided, to honor Aguiyi-Ironsi as at that time. And subsequently, when Nigeria became independent, he happens to become the Nigeria first military head of state. But what actually attracted the wife of the Prime Minister of UK today was he accompanied the husband to a visit to a Jewish settlement in Britain. That the man and the Buckingham is now stated, make it very clear that he is pro-Israel. He's not going to stand on the fence anymore, just like his predecessor. We are hearing that his predecessor also married a Jewish and Israeli woman, but we don't know how we're going to fact check that anyway. But we can tell you that on that process now, the issue of genocide came up, stories begin to build. And of course, the issue of Nigeria is not, it's everywhere. The issue of genocide, killing jihadis and all that, and of course, to an extent, the extreme suffering of the people of the Eastern Bloc. And of course, I think that was how, and he remembered the man called Aguiyi-Ironsi. And of course, Nigeria is a very popular country in Britain currently now because of the position that was given to Nigeria by the Britain. But to the surprise of many, that this woman got to put it very clearly that they cannot continue to watch Christians being killed in Nigeria, and it is time for them to push. The first motion that took place in the British Parliament was in 2015. Where there was an attempt to put the revisit what the Biafran cause, and also revisit. Of course, these are the people that said, after 100 years, Nigeria can actually go their separate ways. But you can see that because of successive government in that regard, that decision was blinded, and nobody was able to go into it and begin to look at it properly. Why the British said that after 100 years we can go our separate ways if this amalgamation, because they knew it was not a collective agreement. There was no resolution to back it up, that every zones or tribes have agreed to be in one entity called Nigeria, and they said, okay, because of certain interests or whatever, so be it, and you can go your separate ways after 100 years. But today, to the surprise of many, that you saw what played out in Abia State. You saw the dignitaries that Great Obasanjo was there, the governor, or even though the Nigerian press was not able to publish the Remembrance Day of the Nigeria first military head of state. And of course, the first Igbo general, of course, if not the first general in Nigeria as at that time. So but it tells you a lot of things. But the woman went ahead to mention it because he had heard about Biafra for so long, and he's also hearing recently that there is constant massacre and killings of Christians by a certain group of people. No, and being who she is now mandating the husband to look into the issue of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, look into the oppressed around the world, and look into the fear of Christians and ethnic cleansing that's happening, especially within Africa. And also take note that there is serious uprising, in British state or country or London or whatever you might call it, as the case may be, that there is uprising against people who are already championing Islam in Britain. And it's one of the reasons why Kestama could not be able to stand the pressure, because a lot of these guys have finally infiltrated, that led to a protest where the British citizens have started protesting that Britain is for Jesus Christ, Britain is for Christianity, Britain is for this. We don't have no room for Sharia, no room for whatever Quran or whatever So you can see, based on that, now there was this sympathy, and of course Maria France Van Hill made that statement that the issue of Nigeria should be brought to the UK Parliament, and that Biafra should be recognized, especially Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. As we are discussing it here now, people in different government parastatals, offices, departments are talking about what is happening in Nigeria. In the European Parliament, the same thing. In Britain, in Rome, the same thing. In US, the same thing. In Israel, the same thing. They are discussing it. So it's not a new thing. Nobody should be shocked, to see the wife of the new British Prime Minister and the Buckingham coming out publicly to tell the whole world, that Johnson Aguiyi-Ironsi is a hero, and it should be recognized based on the tradition of the monarchical government of the British, monarchy. So, and based on that, now he made that statement, knowing fully well that it was Queen Elizabeth that actually recognized, Aguiyi-Ironsi as the first military head of state, and of course, the first general to have emerged from the Biafra military, structure.
But people are attacking her. They said, why is she supporting the Biafrans and the Christians? Because she's a Christian. Because just recently we've seen that the Sharia, the Igbo police there in the northern part of Nigeria, finally said that no more DJs, no more giving gifts or no more. I think in wedding ceremonies, in parties, that every wedding occasion that that has to do with DJ playing music, mixed of both genders, male and female, is cancelled. Is Nigeria truly an Islamic nation?
Nigeria is working confidently, in disguise, to work herself into the circle of full, acknowledgement that it has become an Islamic nation. If you look at what the Bauchi governor said, Bala, Mohammed Bala, you will know that it is not just a statement. That statement is coming from an agreed resolution behind the scene, that everybody should be ready to start studying Arabics in Nigeria. And secondly, there's a bill in the National Assembly, in the Senate today, that is waiting for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to sign it into law. And what does that be? That is the banning of preaching the Bible anywhere, which is also part of it, So gradually they are stepping in, gradually pushing from different narratives, also using arms and weapons to conquer the other side of the ideology too, which Boko Haram and the rest of them are also representing. So these things are no news to British government, even though there is a clear-cut uprising on the agenda that is being spread, which the British government, as at this point now, are not too comfortable anymore with Nigeria, and coupled with the killings, even though they have been reluctantly, silent over this issue, without even making a statement or even condemning what is happening. But I think they are ashamed of themselves because what they actually projected, did not actually work. And at this point now, they just leave it to fate to take its course, and that is what is going to happen. Nigeria is working, and everybody, there's no how, and all these people you are seeing today, they will accept Islam. So as long as they will survive, Nigerians will accept it. If there's any president today, and that is why it is very dangerous, when you push for a Muslim ticket. And now the North has looked at the implications of a southern presidency, and might continue to push another directive, narration in the North that will make the Northerners begin to think otherwise. Because now you can see the northern politicians are struggling to build one of the largest and strongest political caliphates now in the north, that we even have the southern, the middle belt, attached to it, to battle, to subdue, the south, at the end of the day. So this southern ticket, presidential ticket, if it eventually slip out of the southern protectorate, it will be another disaster, because they will now look at the kind of leaders we have around the world. If they are pro-Muslims, like the one we had under Barack Obama, Nigeria is gone, completely gone, and there will be nothing like anything like Christianity. Every law that will govern Nigeria will now begin to be reactivated to be purely about Sharia. And one of the dangers about having a Sharia law, for against the wish of some people, is that law, is something that does not embrace civilization. Let me just put it that way. So Britain at this point now, we need to be very careful. And I strongly believe that when the Buckingham is playing a very strong ally now to United States of America, having given America airspace, immediately he came into power for Donald Trump to, continue his mission in the Middle East, and of course Israel to an extent, because like I told you on the beginning of this interview, he visited, an Israeli a community in Britain, where the wife actually made that statement when the issue of genocide, when the issue of the Jews, we have been brought up in that gathering, and he made it very clearly that he still remember maybe while she was growing up in Belgium, because that's what we will learn. He has noticed and maybe studied or maybe a fan of Umunnakwe Johnson Aguiyi-Ironsi, that warranted her to say that Aguiyi-Ironsi was actually a hero and a product of the British government and military.
Nation. He was a man of vision. He was a detribalized Nigeria. He was a good leader. He occupied the seat of head of state for only six months, and he was taken away from us. Not because of a sin he committed, because he wasn't part of the January 1966 coup. Everybody knows that. Only because of his position as the most senior military officer, he was told to take charge after the coup. And then that cost him his life. I think the family needs apology. The family needs to be compensated. We need sincere apology.
Right, okay.
We need sincere reconciliation.
Right.